Let's talk about the greatest farrier supply house in the world, Wellshot. It's not every day you have a business that's invested in you and wants to do the best they can do for you. The whole crew over at Wellshot are some of the nicest folks you'll meet in this trade. The owner, John Harshbarger, does so much for us in this trade by supporting as much events as he possibly can. I see Wellshot is sponsoring so many events and can't help but think that somebody cares. Every year they host the largest free clinic in the world, put on by the World Championship Blacksmiths, by allowing us all to come and learn and try to become better. Wellshot has everything you could possibly need in your farrier practice. It'd probably take all day to list every product they provide, but whatever brand you use, they'll have it. Aside from products, they also carry all the top tools made by the best in our industry. So when you go to checkout at www.wellshot.com, use code BRAINS and you'll receive a special gift in your order free of charge. Plus, that helps support us at Forging Brains. Can't say enough good things about the folks at Wellshot. It still blows my mind that they can get away with $10 shipping anywhere in the continental U.S. And don't forget, they have basically every anvil that you could possibly need or want to use in supply. So go over there and check them out and use code BRAINS at checkout to help show your support. Thanks, everyone.
All right, welcome everybody to another episode of Forging Brains podcast. I'm your host, Riley Kirkpatrick. Got co-host here, Gavin Cooper. And today we are at the Winter Clinic, the WCB Winter Clinic, still here at Wellshot in Amarillo, Texas. See the Wellshot sign behind us. And it's a good time because we get people in person and it's kind of a cool conversation. And today we got a real cool guy. We got Mike Augenstein with us today, man. Thanks for joining us, Mike.
Thanks for having me. It's an honor. I think I've heard about all of them you guys have done, and some pretty good names on there. I didn't like if I was quite fit into that clique, but I feel honored.
You've been requested actually by quite a number of people.
That's what I was gonna say. You're one of the names that has kept coming up. You know.
I'm the old guy. Hasn't been around for a while.
There's a lot of old guys in areas, but it doesn't mean that they're well respected or that they're even willing to help people or have anything to really offer.
Well, one of the first shoe trades we did, the Roadster.
Yep.
You posted one of the nicest Roadsters in there for the trade.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool, man. Appreciate.
I still help a lot of guys around Ohio that want to get certified or do their journeyman. I'm not out there building draft bar shoes and Tilden Fuller bar shoes really anymore, but I still make a lot of shoes for horses. And
practicality wise.
Yeah. I make all my bar shoes and hard bars. And
so where
I have a fair amount in handmaids.
Yeah.
I'm from Stockport, Ohio. It's a very small town, southeast corner of Ohio.
Okay.
I can be in West Virginia in about 30 minutes.
Nice. Did you grow up there?
I grew up the next county over. Yep. I moved county over where I met my wife. I think we have one high school in our whole county.
Yeah.
In the county?
The whole county.
God damn.
One high school. I have to drive 2 hours to Columbus to work to make
Every day?
No, I do it 2 days a week.
Oh, shit.
Nice.
Thursdays are an hour from the house. Mondays I have a little, keep local.
So is everything kind of in your area, just backyard horses and stuff like that?
Yep. We can get into later on my background on horses, but Ohio has some really good barrel racing horses.
Do they?
We have some good
Really?
futurity trainers. Yep. I have a customer right now that's in Louisiana all week. He took 3 head down. Him and my wife and daughters are the only barrel horses I do anymore, but I used to do quite a few of them. Now I'm all in the eventers and jumbo.
I mean, it's kind of a little stray out right away when you say him.
Well,
Not
everybody
a ton,
out west, but the MBHA, National Barrel Horse,
Yeah.
there's not a lot of rodeos around where we are.
Okay.
Like out here. You don't find really many ropers. A lot of backyard trail riders and things like that, small time eventers, but you can go to a big indoor within 2 hours of my house every weekend and
Race.
there'll be 300 horses entered in the
Like a
barrel race.
fraternity.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
That's
And
pretty
there's
cool.
there's some pretty good money now.
Oh, I bet.
But I got customers. I'll come down to the Lazy E, to the Ruby Buckle, and so I still do a few good ones.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So what was your background in horses growing up?
I barrel raced.
Really?
You were a barrel
So
racer?
I instantly threw it at you, didn't I?
Yeah,
I'm
I
like,
knew it was
well, it
coming.
was weird. There was a guy. You're like,
I
well,
knew it
not
was
that
coming.
weird.
My dad grew up with horses, and it was what they called the gymkhana, the contest stuff.
Okay,
The flag
So I was
racing,
gonna ask
the
you.
stakes, the pole
If that's where it
bending.
came from, was games.
Yep. And I think I did my first Pee Wee class at 5 years old. Just trotted the old mare through. And I had a horse when I was 10, 11, up through about 15, 18 there somewhere. I had him for a good while. He was a pretty good horse. We'd go to the Quarter Horse Congress. That's a big show up where we live. Last for a month. But since that's how I met my wife. But since I come home from shoeing school, I might get on a horse and trail ride it once every other year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you were a kid, did you look up to the farrier right away, or was it like?
So, my dad shot our horses
Okay.
with
Nice.
no education.
Yeah.
He saw it from his granddad or his uncle. My wife's, my father-in-law, he shot their horses.
Okay.
I didn't know anybody shot horses full time.
Oh,
I mean, I'm in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains.
But that's like what Hooter was telling us too. He's like, no one shot horses for a living.
Right.
People shot horses.
Right. My dad retired from 40-some years at the coal power plant.
Okay.
Oh, coal
AP,
miner, huh?
Big coal mine. That's closed down now. I think he'd probably thank Obama for that.
Yeah. That's all of a sudden buying coke so freaking hard now.
Yeah. We do have a place down on the Ohio River. Jason Hill was telling me about. I'm going to start.
Mid-Continental.
Yep.
I got a couple super sacks sitting behind my house, so it's good stuff.
That's 3 hours for me, so I'll just drive down to the dump
Perfect.
trailer and get a couple loads. But I can remember my oldest memory. I was probably about 8 at the old bank barn we had growing up, and Dad would come home from work, and he had his horse and mine, the two that we showed. The rest of them were just trims. And we had up to 30 head at one time. He always had a stud horse.
So he's doing a little bit of breeding.
Yeah. And I would sit on the bucket and hand him tools.
Yeah.
I watched him enough that I knew what tool he was going to grab for. But not being a full-time farrier, he would do 2 feet a night. And then we would go on with the evening. And the next night, he would do the back feet of the same horse. So Monday through Thursday, he got 2 horses shot.
Yep.
Damn.
He had a I-beam. He was a machinist at work. So he made the point on it and welded the round bar and cut the square hardy hole. He never used a hardy, but he could hook a heel in it,
Yeah.
And that's all I knew growing up.
Yep.
He might have done 1 or 2 for the neighbors here and there. So back to all these horses, he would sell, buy brood mares and sell babies, and we had one. I think he was a 2-year-old. And I was 15, I was 15. And he said, he's yours. You break him, you train him, give him a year or 2. If he doesn't make it, sell him, you get all the money. Well, back when I was growing up, we didn't have these fancy phones and everything, So I was at the barn, and I'd ride some of them horses twice a day.
Yep.
He had big old platypus, splayed out feet. He's getting kind of sore. I thought, I'm gonna stick some front shoes on this guy. And I didn't tell Dad because I thought I was gonna get in trouble.
Because I'm sure his shoes were probably valuable.
Oh yeah,
He was only shoeing 2 of the horses that you guys own. It wasn't like he was throwing those things on just willy-nilly.
No. My good horse cracked his coffin bone at one point, and we laid him off and stall rested, and Dad welded a bar in the shoe and cut washers in half and welded around it
That's
for
the
the
first
clips.
clips I saw.
Wow.
That's because the vet told him, what needed to be done. So anyway, about 3 days go by, and we're out at the barn that night, and I pulled that. He might have been a 3-year-old at the time.
Couldn't hide it.
But
at
I
that
pull him
moment.
out, and Dad's tacking up another horse, and he hears clip clop on the concrete aisle, and he just stopped. I'm putting the pony in the cross ties, and he's like, goes over and picks it up. Who did this? I said, I did. He's like, he's not lame. He's like, nope. So then I asked if I could start trimming the brood mares. And I wasn't allowed to shoe the 2 good horses until I was about 18, I think.
Okay.
And he finally let me. And
But that's cool. It wasn't something you were asked to do. It was something you wanted to do.
right. But I remember the first time I got to shoe his good horse. He had the old frost knives that you sharpen
Yep.
with the chainsaw file.
Yeah.
I'd seen him do that, so I get going there. Man, I bled this sucker
Oh,
bad.
the good horse.
Dad's good horse. And we wrapped it up and this and that. I think he might have tried cauterizing it. He
Yeah.
had set acetylene torches. And we went to the show that weekend, and he paid a professional farrier to put pads on him and packing and stuff. And yeah, I wasn't allowed to do that for a while.
Yeah. I bet he was kind of, man, like paying out to have somebody else do it.
It was like 40
the
bucks.
icing on the cake,
It was
man.
40 bucks
It
to
was
have
like-
2 feet done with a pair of pads. And he was just, but I think in 1970 when he started at that power plant, which was a good job, was like $2 and something an hour.
Yeah.
Damn.
So he was only making before taxes $80 a week about.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I know they built our house in 1980 for less than $30,000, and it's a nice
Yeah.
house.
About
You know.
3
That
days
is-
worth of work then.
Yeah.
Yeah,
for
$40
that.
was something.
Oh, yeah.
$40 was something that he did not want to
So
spend.
crazy.
It's
on
$3
top of
to enter
on
a
top of the
class,
show
you know,
weekend.
to
Yeah.
win 15, you know, back then.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Shit.
That is so crazy. And so did you just continue on doing that type of stuff, or did you go to shoeing school?
So I dabbled around through my teenage years, and I didn't know anybody else
Yeah.
that done it. And we moved. My parents divorced in 93, and I moved in with Dad when I turned 18. But I went to college and got an electrical engineering degree to,
Okay.
to keep Mom happy. Didn't want to do it, but I did it. I paid for my books every quarter and my gas. It was a community college I commuted to by shoeing horses.
Really?
I was getting $30 a head.
To shoe 'em?
93, 94, 95, yep. Go to the local feed mill. I had Dad's I-beam, his tools.
And that's where you're shaping
Yep,
shoes
so
on.
I'm sure it was
You're like,
pretty
that's
rough.
what you knew.
But I got, you have 2 trail riders next door,
Yeah.
and they're not paying the professional guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the rank ones, the neighbor guy had a professional farrier, but they had one that would just tear you apart. So that's the one I got to go work on,
Well, when you're in college and starving and need money.
Well, and you grew up with horses, so he might not have been in that rank for you. Like,
I also worked in a local hardware store too during college for gas money and stuff too. But I came out of school, I could not find a job. I put applications within an hour
with your
radius
electrical degree.
with their electrical degree.
Oh, no
So I
kidding.
went to work for a local construction company, and I was the grunt.
Yeah.
$4.25 an hour,
$4.25?
$4.25 an hour.
Just a laborer.
And
Double
I
that
would show up 2 hours before and move scaffolding and have the block ready. And
You're happy.
I mean,
to
they
do
were
it.
laying block. We were setting trusses. It was just whatever. I hated it. But
Happy to have a job, though, probably.
the neighbor with the rank horse, my dad and stepmom had a Western tack store at the house. It's a little side gig, but there was a lot of traffic in and out of the driveway. Well, that professional farrier, Don Sparks, he pulled in there one evening and got to talking to me out in the driveway. And he told me about another fella that he worked under, and actually Bud Gray was his name, and he reached out to me. And I said, I'm thinking about going to shoeing school. I want to talk to somebody that does it. And he said, well, why don't you come right along with me? So I did. He's like, you get around a horse and get under him really good, you keep him comfortable, keep him calm. And he's like, I said, well, what do you think I ought to do? He's like, I'd go. So by this time, I'm figuring out that there are 5 or 6 guys around that
Or
shoe
making
up.
a living.
They might have another job, but they're shooting a lot. It's not just my dad doing his own too.
Yeah.
And I found a shoeing school. It was Midwest Horseshoeing School out in Macomb, Illinois.
Okay.
It's no longer there. I think Steve Shimmershine bought it and moved it to University there at Illinois, but I don't think it's still going. So I call out there and actually sold my good horse that I had all through my teenage years
Put your first
to pay for it, because I didn't have $4,000 back then, and I get everything taken care of, and I was to leave on January 3rd.
How much you end up selling that first horse for then?
Whatever school was, $4,000, I think.
Oh,
I got
really?
out of him.
That's funny. Funny, you're just like
Years before, I turned down
whatever.
$10,000 in a blank check, but that was
Yeah.
a lot of money for a horse then.
Yeah.
When you could buy a horse for $800 or $1,000.
It's funny how that works, huh?
Yep. He went to a good home. He raised a lot of kids after me, and I knew where he was at when he died.
Yeah.
But so I'm doing construction. I've decided I'm going to shoeing school, but I still have a few months before I'm going to leave in January. Between Christmas and New Year's, I get a phone call, a local industrial plant. I knew the fella, family friend, and he calls me up and he said, "Hey, I got your application." He's like, "We're hiring 2 engineers." He's like,
Oh boy, confliction.
"You got the job. You got one of the spots if you want it." He said, "But you got to come in and do some paperwork, and we'll have to make everything legit." I was like, "Oh boy." So I said, "Can I give me a couple days? I'll get back to you." So Dad gets home from work, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. And he puts his dinner bucket down. And he sits down. And he said, "Well," he says, "you can go work up there. You'll be the low man on the totem pole. 6 months, 2 years, 5 years, you might get laid off." He said, "I worked this power plant, however many years it'd been at that time." He said, "I see the same walls, the same people." And Dad's dream was to be a farrier and an auctioneer. All he ever did was shoe our own, He said, "If I was you, I'd take off and not look back." So I called back up there to that, told that guy, I said, "I thank you for the offer, but I said, I'm gonna pursue another dream." And
Did you really even like electrical when you were in school?
no, I wired my own house.
Yeah.
I can do that stuff.
Yeah.
So
but
you still could.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not.
Well, we're remodeling our kitchen right now. Actually, my daughter's boyfriend's electrical background, so he did it while I was actually at Michigan at a contest. I came home, it was all
Shoot
done.
horses.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. But everything we worked on in college was like little computer boards and stuff.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a technical, we're going to wire up a house and put in fuse box. That's what I more wanted to do. No, I hated it. That was just to keep Mom happy.
Yeah.
I probably would have been at shoeing school at 17 years old, right out of high school.
Yeah. It would have presented itself at that time.
Yeah.
Didn't you lose a bet?
Yes. Yes.
He was telling me beforehand that he lost a bet the other day.
I forgot
And
about
I realized you're wearing your sweater.
it. So, I've got the Taylor Swift, everybody can see this here, Swiftie shirt on.
The T Swift, dude.
So,
That is fun.
I'm not a Chiefs fan.
Help lighten the mood here a little bit for you. If you weren't nervous before, you are now.
That's
You
so
all know
funny.
Dusty Franklin, and we was on the team together and stuff. And if I know the Buckeyes are playing somebody like Hooter, I'm like, "Hey, you about a 12-pack on this?" Buckeyes, I'm usually going to win, right? I'm not a Ravens fan, but I thought they could beat the Chiefs a couple weeks ago. Well, I need to back up. They were playing the Cleveland Browns. I think it was the first Super Bowl they won, the Chiefs. I bet Dusty, I texted him, I said, the Browns are going to beat you guys. We won't bet. He said, "A shoe of choice. Loser medals another one, a shoe." All right. And it was a good game. And then the last 2 minutes,
Pissed it away.
Princess Mahomes gets all the calls. And there's like 2 minutes left, and Dusty's texting me his address. And then he texts back and he said, "Damascus Roadster, please." And I thought, I don't have no power hammer. I made one. I made him. It was a nice one.
You think this is gonna suck?
I had to make the billet and everything by hand, but I paid my bet. So a couple weeks ago, I texted him, and he said, another shoe. And I was like, that didn't go so well for me the last time. I said, maybe when the Ravens win, I said, I'll buy you a Taylor Swift t-shirt. And that didn't work. So he did a clinic in Ohio last weekend, and I saw him, and he's like, dude, you were wearing a Swiftie shirt during that podcast. So I'm paying off my bet. I'd rather it be a Bengals or a Dallas Cowboys shirt, but it is what it is.
Here we are.
Make a bet, you gotta
pay up.
Great, there's a T-Swift shirt.
Another buddy had it made up because he didn't think he was going to find one in time.
No, I was kind of wondering, like, where'd you get it?
Josh got
Gavin would like to get one for himself.
You can have this one when we're done recording.
No thanks, I'm good.
It's still clean.
Somebody else here might want it.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to give it to Dusty.
If it was Miley, I'd maybe take it. But
I'd get a silver Sharpie and sign my name on the back of it.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you about the fine folks from World Championship Blacksmiths. As a heads up, they have the Winter Classic Team Challenge at Spy Coast Farms next on the docket. There's nothing like being on a team of 4 and laying down your work amongst them so that at the end of the day, they can pick it apart with constructive criticism so you can get better. The sole focus is so you can become better, and putting yourself in that environment will push you to an area that you didn't even know you had within yourself. The WCB is about holding on to tried and true methods of trimming, shoemaking, and most of all, fit. The goal is always to have the horse better off in the end. The farrier to become efficient and skilled to whatever comes to their way that they can tackle. They're doing more than just putting on horseshoeing competitions. They're creating a community amongst us of the greatest hardworking folks that'll step up and help you along the way. The WCB is putting on the greatest horseshoeing contests in the world, and we personally believe here at Forging Brains Podcast that it's important to test yourself and try to become better every day. So it's awesome to have the World Championship Blacksmiths sponsor the show. Help support them by going to their website, www.worldchampionshipblacksmiths.com, and buy some merch to show your support, and use code BRAINS for 10% off your order. It's not including contest or membership fees. We look forward to seeing you down the road, and thanks for sponsoring the show.
I don't know if it fit Dusty.
Oh, that is good.
Yep.
So you headed to shoeing school.
Yep.
Where'd you end up going?
Macomb, Illinois. That Midwest horseshoe school.
You gotta follow along, Gavin.
He's still looking at Taylor.
Yeah, he was mind blown with tea.
And I get there, and they took 14 students, and there's 14 cold forges, hand cranked.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I knew enough to grab the one with the dimmer switch, so I didn't have to crank it all day. If I remember right, there was only 5 keg shoes in the school, in the classroom. We made them.
Just so you could see them.
There was a bar stock and one of them shears with about a 7-foot handle on it. We made every shoe from day one. I don't think there was a propane forge in there either. Roy Evans was the instructor, and his background was standardbreds and hackney ponies.
Yep.
And that kind of stuff.
Wizard.
So that was a lot of our shoeboard stuff.
Okay.
To get out of school. He was not an AFA guy.
Yep.
Actually, Randy Lucart, if you all have ever heard of him,
yeah.
he went to that school.
Okay.
Obviously, 30
Before
years
you.
before I did, but that was what I really liked, because I liked doing the stuff and crafting, and I excelled there in all 3 phases. And
how long was the school?
3 months, 12
Okay.
weeks. Yep.
Cool.
That's about all that longer you could find them, I think, back then.
Yeah.
Was it kind of mind-blowing after shaping shoes and everything on a railroad tie anvil to now being introduced to cold forge, hand crank?
Oh, I burned a lot of steel up. Yeah, we didn't know how to hit anything. It was all 1/4 by 3/4.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Or 1/4 by 1. If it was like,
A bigger
we'd
foot or
put 1/4 by 1 on something that would wear a size 6.
Isn't it funny though? Because like we made all 1/4 by 3/4 shoes when I was in school too.
Same.
And it's like, do you guys remember how hard it was to punch a nail hole when you first started? And now you think like I could punch a nail hole in 1/4. Cold.
Yeah.
Probably 3 hits.
But we had to have
back
it so
then-
hot when we started.
Yeah.
It didn't hold
God.
heat. So if it wasn't red, we didn't think we could punch the hole.
Nope.
No.
Oh, and maybe it took me a heat or 2 to get the hole punched.
Oh, yeah.
Like it was taking me a while.
The school, it was cool, but we chopped all of our heels with a Hardy, so we would make these U-bolts, and then we would get 6 holes in it, quench it, and then we'd take it over the foot that we trimmed, and we would take a piece of soapstone and you mark it, and then you get it hot and cut it off from the Hardy hole.
Have a cropper.
Yep.
Like a brass hammer.
And I can remember we had, heel was sacred, toe was not. You know, so it was bleeding toes and hoof
even with the saddlebred guy.
Yep.
Heels were sacred?
Yep.
So leave them?
Yeah, get them stood up.
Shit.
I guess you do
see some of the older saddlebreds shoeing was like pretty much club feet.
Yep. I had built a shoe ball a while back, and all the shoes I put in it were all handmades, but I know my certified straight bars on there. Journeyman shoes, my Journeyman bar shoe, but I found all those shoes in a milk crate that I took past school.
Yep.
Whew, they're bad. But there's a bunch of them, but they're on there. But every shoe on that ball's got a meaning. I know what horse it was off of or what big show he won, and so it's not just like I cleaned up the practice pile.
So when you after you went to school, you did good there. It's like you were probably, did they open your eyes to cost and everything? So now you're were you thinking like, how am I going to make that much money when I go home?
No, if they did, I don't remember. But if you know my mother, she was a penny pincher, so I've always been good with money.
Yeah,
I've always been able to make that work. But I came home.
That was a battle maybe in itself, with your parents, penny pincher mom and a dad that really liked horses.
Oh, well, like I said, they divorced in '93. I think they were married 21 years, and they were high school sweethearts. I don't know how they made it 21 years living together. Now that I'm older. Mom would not break a fingernail. She only went outside to the flower bed. She's going to get full service gas. She's not getting out pumping her gas.
Wow.
She's not going to the barn. She's not driving a tractor. No.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
so all the work was done by Dad and you, and
Yep.
It's always funny to me when people are like, because me and my family are that way. Like I'm the horse crazy one, and my wife is care less if we had horses.
Yeah.
Well, now everybody says, "Well, how many horses do you have?" I said, "Well, I don't have any, but I buy feed for 4 or 5 of them, you know."
Okay.
And it gets to the point that my wife will get into my appointment book. She's like, "When are you
Schedule
ever
herself.
horses? You need me to call somebody else?" And I was like, they don't pay as well, you know.
Exactly.
Once my oldest one turned 16 here a few years ago, she bought her first car, and they just detailed this thing, her and my younger daughter. I'm like, "Man, that looks like it come off the showroom floor." I said, "You do a good job." I said, "Here's the deal. From now on, every time I shoe one of your horses, you guys wash or detail my truck." So that's how they pay me now.
That's
good.
They're like, "Dang it, we shouldn't have done such a good job." They got themselves.
So get home from school. Obviously, have no work.
Yeah.
Maybe the handful I was doing prior. And that Bud Gray, he reached out to me. He's like, "Hey, you want to go ride with me?" Yeah. From day one, it didn't matter if there was 10 full sets. I did 5, he did 5.
Split them up.
He trusted me. But now that I look back, you got to find where they live and back up 2 strokes, you know. So he's seeping every toe, doesn't touch a heel.
Yeah.
And he used a lot of quick poly epoxy back then when shoes came off, you know, because nailing in the wall and stuff.
Yep.
But he got me under a lot of horses. And I worked with him 1 day a week. And I worked with another guy, the guy that put the pads on, Dad's horse.
No.
He lived a little further away. I went with him 1 day every other week.
That way you got your dad's $40 back in a way.
Yeah. Bud doesn't shoe anymore. I lost track with him, but I think Dana Hammersley, I think he's in Oklahoma now. But neither one of them were ever into the associations or any of that kind of thing. So I had my own work one day, and you know how it is when you start. Well, can you come on the weekend, or can you come at 5 after I get off work? And
Yep.
you just go do what you got to do.
Yep.
So I did a couple trims or something that morning, and then I have like 4 hours to kill. But yet I'm not going to drive back home. So I'm going down the road, and I drive by, and I see this Farrier truck backed in this nice barn, indoor arena, about 20 minutes from the house. So I go up, and I turn around the next driveway, and I come back. I'm just standing at the corner of the aisleway there, and the guy finally realized I was there and looked up, and I introduced myself. And I don't know if you guys heard his name before, but Michael McNutt. He used to be an AFA tester, did competing and stuff, but he's working on a horse, and he got done, and I swept up. He didn't ask me to. He put the horse in the stall, brings the next one. I'm like, man, that thing's 8 weeks. It's got all 4 shoes on it, clips, and they don't look like they need done. So I watch him pull the shoes off. He cleans the foot out, and he sticks his nippers in there, and just a nice big old rim of foot. And I'm like, man, they didn't look that long.
Yeah.
He's hot fitting, and I'm like, so we're talking a little bit, and he said he was there at that barn, I think, every other Thursday. I get in a truck, a little bit later, because I got to go trim somebody's donkey, that coyote donkey. I'm writing in my book,
Yeah.
2 weeks, Thursday, I'm coming back here. And he didn't invite me. I showed up. I swept the floor, did whatever. We talked some more. He finally let me pull shoes and let me clinch a couple horses. So a few of those visits go by, and he's like, hey, have you ever heard of the Mid-Eastern Farriers Association? No, sir. He says, well, we're having a clinic in a couple weekends. He's like, if you want to be at my house, he lived an hour north of me. He says, you be at my house at 6:30 in the morning, hop in the truck, and I'll take you. I was there at 6 in the morning.
Yeah.
Get there, it was Danny Ward. And, yep, I'll never forget that one. And I think he was working sponsored by Diamond or Cooper or somebody back then.
Yeah. They were sitting like him.
So
and
I'm
Core
sitting in the
around.
bleachers listening, and I go back home, and I'm working with Bud Gray. And I start asking questions. Well, I do it this way. It's my way or the highway, bucko kind of guy.
Oh, yeah.
You were?
He was.
Oh.
Bud was. Like, he did not want me
Yeah,
questioning what he was doing.
He probably knew right away. He's like, this kid went somewhere.
And it didn't last much longer after that.
Yeah.
But I built the relationship with Michael. And then I'm meeting other guys in the association. And that right there was the path that put me in the right direction.
Yeah.
Because if I wouldn't have met him, who knows how many years before I'm beating on that railroad anvil, cold banging. At that time, he was competing pretty good in the open, and I'd been out of school. I got out in April. I think it was in September or October. He's like, hey, we're going to have a contest up in Findlay. You want to go? Yeah, I'd drive my old rickety truck up there, and I'd been in his shop practicing a little bit, just basic plain stamp stuff. And that was cool back then. There was no keg shoes in the novice.
Yeah.
So I won every class in the novice, but there had a judge's choice. I think it was Dave Ferguson. He was from Maryland area. He was on the team then.
Mm-hmm.
He was a judge. So the judge's choice was a pair of Fullered egg bars. Well, I didn't have a Fuller. I didn't know how to use a creaser. So I go running over to Michael's truck, and he's got, 15. I'm like, hey, man, I need a creaser. Fuller. He's like, So he grabs the most beat up, worst one he's got to let me keep wrecking, and I go over there, and it was just natural for me to Fuller, not to myself, but away.
Yeah.
But I didn't know how to look at the thing, so I got second because they paired. But my nails all had the opposite pitch because I ran the Fuller backwards.
Oh, because it was set to go in
Yeah.
line.
Yeah, I didn't know any better. But I got them welded, and they paired up. And
That's funny.
I think the next competition was in January. I went to Michigan. It was in 96. No, that was 97. It was in January. and Grant Moon was the judge. And here's this little kid from Southeast Ohio, and I'm like,
Who's this guy?
This guy's
Smashing
how many
stuff.
time world champion and stuff, and I'm like, wow.
Hitting some shit.
Won the novice up there, and then it was coming pretty easy. So he's like, well, we're going to Indiana in April. We think you ought to just jump up in the intermediate. I didn't get my ass kicked, you know. But got a little humble pie there.
Good idea, guys.
But I think after that, our association had a lot of clinics with Bob Marshall. Hammer, you know, and
Our great friends over at Farrier Box have been supporting us on Forging Brains for a while now. Since the time that they have sponsored the show, we have received many great products that I wouldn't have thought about buying, or because I was being a tight ass. But they were sent to me in their subscription box, and now I use those products in my day-to-day practice. Each box is sent bi-monthly, and in those boxes is an array of the top tools and products that have been tested by the greats in our industry. So go to www.farrierbox.com and use code BRAINS for 25% off your first month's order. You won't be disappointed, I'll tell you that.
got to go to do one with David Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
And Bob Marshall, you know, taught me the horn. And so I didn't really have a lot of bad habits going forward. And yeah, that really kick-started things there. I think I got up to the open level at the local contest. And then in 2000, I bought a piece of ground and started building, and I got married in 02, and I was the treasurer, so I stayed active.
Okay, yeah.
But I wasn't competing. And so I took a little hiatus there, you know, started a family, and I dabbled in it.
You got 2 kids?
2 girls.
Nice.
Yep. 2 teenage girls.
So was it weird for you? So you guys were cutting off heels in school. Was it weird for you the first time you had to forge in a heel versus cutting it?
Oh, fish lipped like crazy, you know?
We're just like measuring.
Yeah. Yep.
Like now you had to
But
measure
that
something.
came from Michael and all the Mid-Eastern guys,
Yeah.
you know? So I had a lot of good help there. Bobby Minker.
They put you on the straight and narrow
Yeah.
pretty quick.
Yeah.
You have a problem, Gav?
No, keep going.
Where was we?
That you started your
So
family?
yeah. But I'd still go to a clinic or something here or there. I just wasn't taking the time to practice because I was building my own place. Oh shoot, I'm getting way ahead of myself. Let's back up. 98. I go to my first convention in Rochester, New York.
Okay.
Rode up with Michael McNutt, and he made the top 20 for the shoe in that year. It was the only time he ever did it, and he was tickled. And they're competing in the draft class and stuff. But beforehand, he talked me in for the cultural exchange. So, you know, I show up there and go in for my interview and shirt and tie, and I had a briefcase with every clinic I'd ever attended, every competition,
That is
what
cool.
I placed. And I was organized.
Yeah.
And I got picked to go, but we got to go to Australia.
Oh, nice.
And, you know, I was young, single. So that was, I don't know that I'd ever even been on an airplane, to be honest with you.
Up until that point.
That's a long flight.
I don't know that I could, yeah, I did. A couple years before we flew out to Denver for Cheyenne Frontier Days. But anyway, so I got to spend 3 months over there, and actually, Robert Jukes
Oh.
at the time was like, I think was I 21? Yeah, 22. He was like 18, 19-year-old apprentice.
So you met him over there?
Well, I was working with his boss and another guy. I mean, I met him, but it wasn't like we went out to dinner every night, you know.
Yeah.
But I think I was the last year they did because all the internal flights got pricey for the AFA. You know, in England, you can ride with Jonathan Dunn, and in 20 minutes, you know,
He was
you can be
so-and-so.
with Grant for a week, and
Drop me
everything's
off.
so close. When I went, we flew into Melbourne, and I spent 2 weeks, a week with 2 different fellas there, and then I got on a plane and flew to Perth, clear over on the other
jeez.
side of the country.
Oh, damn.
Spent 3 weeks there, and then I get on a plane and fly back, and then the East Coast was a little easier to get through, but still you might go 6 or 8 hours to get to the next guy. So it got pricey for the AFA. And,
Was it worth it?
oh, yeah.
Yeah, because I don't think I've heard
I got
of
to
many other
compete in
people
their
that say
intermediate at the Nationals, and I won that. We didn't get a shoe of foot in the intermediate, but I had to make shoes, I think, make a couple ornamental things, but I still have those on the wall in the shop. I get home, and that is big time jet lag. So about 2 weeks in is our local contest back at Findlay. So then you had to do the slideshow. There wasn't no PowerPoints back then, so you had to get your pictures developed and put it into the little round thing that clicked and shined the light. Projector, yeah. Well, you got to do the talk at the convention, right? That's part of the gig.
Oh, when you're done, right?
Right. So they thought it would be good for me to have the practice run at our local association at the banquet. And I did. I was nervous, but we got done. The president, he asked me, he said, so what all did you learn over there? And I just I said, this was in September. I said, ask me in the spring. I said, because every guy had a little different way of doing things. And I said, I got to put it all together, and then I'm going to come up with Mike's way.
Yeah.
So I gotta have time to do that. And there's little things I do that I learned over there. Then when I got home, I competed for a couple of years and got to that open status. And then that's when I took some time off and was building a house and got married, built a barn, you're doing all that stuff.
Would you recommend to anybody that's like interested in the culture exchange to embrace it and just do it if you're able to?
Oh, yeah. I have a 21-year-old kid working with me now. Sorry, Carter, I'm going to throw you under the bus a little bit. He wants to be a part of this, but I think from his upbringing, he just doesn't know what to do or what it takes. But I would like to see him do that someday.
It'd be scary, like you were saying, like you had not even gotten on a plane before.
I had one time.
Yeah, like all of a sudden you're about to go
24
I was
hours.
scared
Australia.
to death. Yeah, I was scared to death. So I left my house Thursday morning. Remember, Dad took me to the airport. I flew straight to LAX. Had a 13-hour layover.
Oh, shit.
And I seen people, this country boy,
Never
I've
seen
never seen
before.
before.
Yeah, I bet.
You said at the airport, you see a lot of stuff. And then we flew and we stopped in New Zealand and fueled up and then on into Melbourne. And with the time change and the layovers, it took me 2 days to get there.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah,
I landed there on Saturday morning at 10:30 their time.
Oh.
And then when you fly home, I think it's 12-hour time change. You've got the tailwind, so your flight's a couple hours quicker.
Yep.
So like if you leave Sydney at Saturday at noon, you're going to land in the States on Saturday at 2 o'clock because of the time difference.
It's a big old trip.
Oh, man.
It's so weird.
That makes going to England seem like a puddle jump.
Yep.
Yeah.
So how long did you kind of hang out just building the house and everything before you got back into competing?
Let's see. So in 03, I got married in 02. 03, I bought another chunk of ground. So I got like 140 acres then.
Okay.
I'm hunting, I'm sitting in the woods every fall, every day.
Yeah.
Got my bow, whitetail hunting, and killed a good buck in 06. And I was starting to get the competition bug back.
Now
and
you killed a big buck on your place.
Yeah, well, I got a few, but he's the biggest one I've got to date. It was in 06. And Trey Green had came to Ohio. I think his wife's job moved him there.
Mm-hmm.
And was kind of getting the bug again. I went to a couple clinics, went to a contest. I think it was in 07. I'm sitting in a tree, daylight till dark. I don't see nothing. And I got going through my head, man, I could be building fence. I could be doing this. I'm like, well, I bet this guy's practicing.
Yeah.
I bet this guy went and shot, how many
Couple
horses and made
horses.
money, and I just stay here and did nothing.
Yeah.
But sleep in a tree. That's probably why I didn't see anything. But took all my tree stands down after that season, and I cut a hole in the back of my garage, the concrete wall, put a walk door in, and built me a 14 by 24 room to forge in.
Nice.
So I thought I wanted to give that team thing a try.
Yeah.
So I got hooked up with Trey, and that really got the ball
Because
rolling.
Trey had already been on the team by this point.
Yes.
Yeah.
And all the guys in Ohio and all the Bob Marshall clinics and all that was all great to give me a good start.
Yep.
But then Trey was showing me all these other shoes and all the
Someone's
other
in the know.
Huh?
He's like in the know,
Right.
in the deep right then.
And he's like, well, you got to go to the WCBs. I think it started in 07. And I think we went in, it was 09, Epping, New Hampshire. Tim McPhee's was the first one I went to. Like, I don't have a Coke Forge.
Yeah.
So I had to drive, 2.5 hours to Trey's shop to practice and get yelled at. But we went, so I was in Division III. And I did pretty good, I think. I did pretty good the first two I went to. Drew some checks, and you had Travis Coons winning everything, and but that was just a whole nother world.
Oh, yeah.
But that was getting me geared up for the convention, And I think in 2010 with Portland, Oregon, was when I made the team.
Oh, nice.
I had went to 2 conventions prior. Then obviously didn't place in anything, but I'd qualified for the shoe in the second year I went.
Did you
Back then there was like 80 competitors, and you had to take your own stations.
Yeah.
There was no intermediate division back then, but
Yeah.
you got the Mark Milsters and these, and I remember the first time seeing Craig. I thought I just met Michael Jordan.
Uh-huh.
You read about this guy in a magazine,
Yeah.
But no, it was all cool. He'd probably done a clinic for us. I think I knew him before for my first WCB. So yeah, then we just took off from there.
Did good in Portland?
Yeah. I don't know who the national champion was. So Dusty and Brian Nelson was on the team the year before with Gene Leisure and Jake Engler. And then basically Ben Mangan and I took those 2 spots. Well, I was the captain because of points, but I wasn't. That was Dusty's job because we were the rookies and the newbies, and we had no clue what was going on. Second year, you know a little bit more about what was going on. Probably could have done it a couple more years, but the traveling thing was.
It's a lot.
We were gone a lot. And
How was that first year you went to Stone?
I kept a calendar like those over there in my shop, and I think I was gone 180 days that year. And I had 2 little girls at home. So back when I took my tree stands down, I asked my wife, I'm like, hey, I'm thinking of doing this, but it's gonna be a road. And she's like, well, I'd rather, if you're gonna do it now while the girls are little. I had one in diapers, and they don't really realize Dad's gone for 3 days. But once they got to about that 9-10-year-old age and was into sports and horse shows, and I wanted to be there for all that.
Oh yeah.
And I'm still that way.
No, that's like, was it crazy how much you learned even? Like, because everybody always says, they're like, I thought I knew quite a bit until I went that first team practice.
Oh yeah.
Like multiple people have mentioned, they're like, that first team practice was just
Eye opener.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd had Trey beating on me for 2 or 3 years.
That's
so.
true. Yeah, that's true. You're like,
Abuse.
that was already a whip
Ben
dog.
Mangan, they called him the Beast from the East, and he could move some steel.
Yeah.
And we always paired up, and I would cut a 1/4 inch, a 1/2 inch more in steel every time than what he did.
Yep. Yeah, he's gonna get whipping on it.
I always tease him like, you never beat me in a shoeing. But he'd get mad. He'd go to the foot 13 times, and I'd go, once or twice. And
Yeah.
he's like, Oh, I did not. I'm like, yeah, you did. Conrad stood there and counted them, you know? But he wouldn't admit it.
It's always a funny thing in a team environment. You almost just want to set up a camera.
Yeah.
So then you're like, let's just watch the replay. let's go to the replay here.
We had a lot of fun.
Did you have high expectations the first convention you went to and competed at? And like, were you upset like that you didn't make the team the first time?
No, because I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I was like 24th.
Did you know you weren't ready?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Okay.
I took a buddy from Ohio, and we were dead last in the draft class. But him and I met that first day at the Danny Ward Clinic years back.
Yeah.
We become good buddies. Todd Adams, he was in my wedding. His daughters were my flower girls. But we come up through all that together.
Okay.
I took him back the second year, or I shouldn't say I took him back, but we went back together, and we were like fourth from last. And Trey comes to town, and he's like, "Hey, we've got to." He says,
practice.
He's like, "Me and you are going to do it, right?"
Yeah.
Which Todd didn't want to practice. He wasn't into it. He got into the bodybuilding. So when I went to competing and forging, he went into the bodybuilding. We're still good friends, but yeah, that's how that. So no, I had no expectations the first year. I just wanted to get my feet wet.
Some people
Get
they
the
might
nerves
think
out.
like, oh, I'm gonna make the team. I'm gonna try and make it my first year, and then like say somebody doesn't make it,
You
then they
gotta
get
go.
beat down.
You gotta fail so many times, before.
You gotta learn the dance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta go there and just learn how the game's played.
Yeah.
So the second year I went back, I qualified 7th for the shoeing, and I'll never forget this. I'm like, Grant Moon's like qualified 14th.
Yeah.
Billy Carruthers is like 10th. I got Todd Walker over here, and I think Travis won it, but Craig, and I'm just standing over there 2 hours before we go, and I'm just shaking. And Craig walks by and he stops. He's like, "Do you always have your anvil turned around backwards?" I just looked at it and said, "Well, it's the way it is in my shop." So you got a rhythm and a system.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I ain't changing nothing now. But I went home and I turned my anvil where it faced the horn faced my fork, I didn't know any better. But I didn't do any good in anything, but I don't even know where I ended up in the show.
How was that first year when you went to Stoneleigh? Did you guys think you were gonna just like do real good when you went over there?
I mean, if you don't think you're going to do good, why go? You got to have a little bit of
Expectations.
that about you, but it was new. I didn't know.
It's like,
Of course, you always hear, "Oh, the Americans never win. The English aren't going to let you win." Da da da. I mean, we give it a good shot.
Yeah.
The boys did this past year. Proud of them. Them guys.
yeah,
They-
Bob sent me a picture the other day. They took second there the one year.
Yeah.
Bob and them did. Shane.
I think we were 4th both years.
Yeah.
We got second in gas forging, shoes.
But it is a whole different game than
Yeah.
anything else.
So-
It's like a lot on the stakes.
I can't remember what year it was, but have you been there to Stoneleigh?
Yeah.
So they lined the horses up, and they got the hay bags, and everybody's cleaning up. You're getting ready for go, and we got this big bay, and it's nice feed. They did a nice job on it, beautiful. Well, I went to the restroom and come back, and like, we got this pony that's 14-2. Well, Ben was pissed.
Yeah.
Where'd that horse go? Oh, it's down there for the Welsh team at Anvil 1. Well, that's his buddy. He'll stand better down there, was a story we was getting from the stewards. But come to find out, the Welsh team just shot that horse 6 weeks ago.
Oh, geez.
they wanted it back.
And they won with him.
Yeah.
And we get something that's got 2 shoes off, busted bear claws. It was the second year we went, because I think Jim Quick was one of the judges that year. I'm like, I see how this works.
Yeah.
We probably wouldn't have won with that job anyway,
But still.
but still, it the luck of the draw sometimes and how that works.
I think
Yeah.
there's I don't know. It seems there's some favoritism there. It seems like a little weird.
Yeah.
Like,
Just say that without saying it, I guess.
yeah. I'm over.
But we enjoyed the traveling and seeing the country. We got to go to Grant's shop, David Smith, and we was a Beanie shop both years. Beanie was really good to us. Could you go over? But to back up there, I did mention Jim Quick and Trey.
Yep.
So Trey would come to my house once a year. I went to him the rest of the time. But
Yeah.
he was showing me how to build roadsters and all these shoes. When he'd come to my house, I'd get like 6 or 8 other guys that were working on journeyman stuff, and he would help them. But he made, they paid him.
Yep.
So I go to my first contest at Michigan in January of '08 because I was going to be going to the convention in 2 months. I didn't really know Jim, and back then you got 14 inches of 3/4 5/16 bar stock. Didn't matter what foot you draw, that's just what they laid on your anvil, and you had to build that 11-inch roadster. And I draw this horse, is pretty thick-footed, and I'm thinking, man, this is going to look like a string, piece of wire on here. So I bumped it down to 12 and made me a whole 7/8 section. It took, at that skill level, that took me about 3 heats.
Yeah.
But anyway, we get done, he walks over, he judging it and clinching, and he come over, he says, "That's your job?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "I think that job right there win convention." He said, that's a nice job. He said, "How'd your roadster come out?" I said, "It's a paperweight. I've never done it before with a horse."
Yeah.
You run the 45-minute go
Yeah.
at home, then you throw the horse in, then you take a couple heats away because you're bumping up.
Making a section.
Yeah, and it wasn't good. And back then, it was all closed judging.
Yep.
So they take all the roadsters to the room, and he asked Dick and Jennifer, he said, "Can I take those 10 guys in the open up in the room? We're going to go over these roadsters." Looking back now, I know he was doing it for me
Yeah.
because he saw some potential. He went over the score sheet and explained everything. My roadster was dead last. One best shot foot. I got second in shoeing,
Yep.
but my roadster was last. So he pulls me aside later on. He said, "Let me guess." He says, "You go home, cut a piece of steel, you build a roadster, and it's a piece of junk. You get mad, you throw it on the floor. Hour and 20 minutes later, you're starting to build a second piece of junk." I said, "Pretty much." He said, "Go home, cut 10 pieces. And this was what changed for things to click with me. Why I wanted to bring it up. He said, "Do 10 toe bumps, keeping in order, 1 through 10. And then do 10 toe bends, just for the roadster."
Yep.
He said, "Lay them there. Don't matter if it takes you 3 heats to get whatever done." He said, "Do whatever, come out the next night." He says, "You're going to run your branch up and make your weds. It might take you 4 heats on the first 2. He said, "But by 9 and 10, you'll probably be doing it in 2 heats.
Yep.
Third night, lateral branches, heel cocks. Fourth night, a heat per branch, turn punch, pull clip." But the reason for that was, he says, "You're going to make a wedge every heat. You're going to do a medial branch every heat,
Yep.
not every hour and a half. And
Exactly.
keep making junkers."
Yep.
And they got better, and you got faster. And I do that with a lot of shoes. And to this day, all the guys that I help, even if it's just basic journeyman shoes, Bodie talked out there earlier about, the toe bend. And I'm like, why are we doing this if we're not getting this part right? So I said, let's just do 20 toe bends. But nobody ever finishes it because they get bored with it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And there's guys out there that can't do toe bends, but they're trying to build roadsters and Tilden Fullard right now.
I think that's the biggest thing, that if I could, someone's like, "I'm going to go to Winter Clinic. What should I do?" And it's like, well, you should watch all the demos and take notes. I've seen a couple of kids out there taking notes. I'm like, they're on something right here. Because you can go home and make piles of shit by yourself.
Yeah.
Not here. Not when there's clinics going on. There's demos going on. And then I think if you do get a time to go out to the anvil, go out and make either a 3/4 fuller or a plain stand. And then come find one of those people that did the demo or somebody else that's advanced around and have them judge your shoe. You got the chance, but people do come here and they
my
want to make a
buddy
roadster.
that got me this nice shirt made up, he's out there now, Josh Knotts.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a story for him. He's got a little soft spot with me.
Sponsor of Forge and Brains podcast, Yukon Forge. If you're a fan of the show, then you probably already heard the interview we did with John McNerney and all the badass things he's accomplished in his career, as well as the type of character this man has. John's graciously offering you guys 10% off on anything you order when you go to www.yukonforge.com and use code BRAINS at checkout. On his website, you'll find he has a variety of high-quality, hand-built tools made by him personally. His hoof knives are some of the best on the market. All his tongs are forged from 4140 steel to hold up to whatever you're grabbing and holding. John's been developing a new hammer out of 4140 steel that looks pretty dang sick, and I can't wait to try one. His fullers are handmade from S7, and I personally know of some that have withstood the years of hammer blows. Also, a new and unique tool John has developed is the propane nut. There's nothing worse than stripping out your propane regulator from not having the right tool. The Yukon Forge propane nut replaces whatever you had been using for a simple tool that you can tighten and loosen with your fingertips with ease. So go to www.yukonforge.com and use code BRAINS for 10% off your order. That's a hell of a deal, my friends.
So Josh was about an hour from me. Well, to back up, I said, go build a bar shoe to a pattern.
Yeah.
Because he hasn't attempted his journeyman yet. I said, you got Dusty, you got all these guys out here, have them judge it.
Yep.
They're going to tell you, hear something other than from me.
Yeah.
And he's gone places, and he's like, dude, they said the same thing you said. I've said it 100 times, but you weren't ready to hear it then.
Yep.
And then somebody else says it, and it clicks. So Josh, I think, is 41 years old. We're not that far apart geographically there, and I knew of him for the last 20 years.
Okay.
And I would have said, I wouldn't let that guy shoot a dead goat. And he knows that now. But he was a cold bang, and then I knew who his mentor was. I think he said the first 10 years he turned his anvil the opposite direction because the heel cams were over here.
Yeah.
It's about two or 3 years ago, he shows up at a hammer in. And I'm like, oh, man, that's that guy. I didn't talk to him. I'm over here practicing. And he got in there with a couple people, and I heard him say to somebody, he said, dude, I don't know how to pull a clip. I don't know how to weld or build a bar shoe. And I thought, So a couple guys work with him. He shows, we do this the third Friday of every month, the hammer in. So he shows up the next one. I thought, all right, he's back.
Yeah.
And he brings his tools in, and he's ready to
You
destroy
can try some
something.
shit.
Yeah. And he still, I introduced myself, and he knew who I was. His mentor always, like I said, didn't have anything to do with any associations, just in their own little hole in the wall. And he's like, yeah, my mentor told me, he said, them guys that compete, all they do is sit around, drink beer, and talk about how good they are. Well, anyway, he posted something about after that second hammer in, and I replied, and I said, we're only an hour apart. I'll help you. And I thought that it took someone 40 years old that had done something for 20 years to walks into a room full of 25 farriers that are all doing stuff that he couldn't do.
Yeah.
And to admit, that's a big person.
Oh, yeah.
To admit, I don't know nothing. I've been screwing horses up for 20 years. And thought, you know what? That kind of attitude, I'm going to help this guy.
Yeah.
Do something.
And he comes to the shop. I go to his place. He's up at 5 in the morning in the shop. He's in the shop at 7 at night. Probably has 90% of his horses in handmaids.
Oh, that's cool.
He's that guy out there taking notes and doesn't want to miss anything.
He had the right attitude.
So he friended some younger fellas, and won't go into it too deep, but he come to me last spring. All these guys are going after their journeyman. Then they fail, and 2 weeks later they're going 2 states further to take it again. He said to me one day in the shop, he's like, I don't want to be that guy that takes the test 15 times and finally passes it by 1 point. I said, good. he said, I want to take the test, and I want whoever's there to say, that's a nice job. He was ready.
Yeah, without dispute.
And I was like, well, we got a lot of work to do. And we had goes last summer. This winter, the holidays, I've been dealing with my mom there. She passed away last month from cancer, but we hadn't got to do too many horses. And he's thinking about taking it here in April, but I want to make sure he has quite a few runs with me there, and we'll see where we're at.
So he's ready to go.
But he's finally getting to the point that, because he was so hard on himself and frustrated. And I'm like, dude, pull that picture up you sent me 2 years ago, what you made, and that. Yeah. But he's like, my toenails are racked, or no, my medial toe's not shoved up enough. But he's starting to see it, and I just think that's great.
Oh, I think it's good. It is something always to keep in mind, though, that you're like, I always keep in mind, like a hammer even that I make today. I'm just as disappointed and happy with that thing when I'm done as the one I made 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Even though the one I can make today I know is a better hammer, but like with your skill, your eye grows, and with that, your critiques are always going to be climbing.
Mm-hmm. And he takes me beating him up because I'm the hardest person on myself. Yeah. I've never made the perfect shoe, and there's 101 things to remember during that go, especially when you throw a foot in.
Yep.
And I said it's about the guy that gets 99 of them, or 90, that makes the least amount of mistakes.
Yeah.
So, but I'm like, that's not good. I see this, see that. We've talked about this. Oh yeah. I said, well, you keep doing it over and over again, so we're gonna have to change something up.
Gotta wrap her up sooner or later, bud. Not doing it.
But I will say he's smarter than me this weekend because he flew out here.
Oh yeah.
I drove out with Ratterman, and it's 18 and a half hours. So that was
that's too much.
Yeah.
That's too much.
We'll be tired Monday.
Yeah, you will. Yeah, you will.
We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it all one shot Sunday.
Nice. So what's your kind of schedule look like now? Like you just shoeing horses full time and helping out?
I shoe Monday through Thursday. In 14, I thought I'm gonna start taking Fridays off. That don't work. I usually shoot 2 Fridays a month.
Yeah.
And then the other 2 I have haul-ins.
Okay.
But back 3 years ago, things started going on with Mom. I'd be driving her to chemo and a lot of other stuff going on, so you just had to schedule Fridays. Yep. I do not work weekends. Between Mom and remodeling our house this winter, that's kind of. But no, I go out in the shop. The guys come over. I'm in the shop a lot, make shoes, stock the truck, but.
Still in the community.
Yeah, that keeps me going.
Yeah.
And it keeps you accountable. If you're going to show someone something, you better be able to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I love it. I said let's see. When Micah graduates, I'll be 51. I said I might make a comeback, but she says, you'll be too old for that.
Oh, no.
But,
time to prove her wrong.
She's a 3-sport athlete. She's, the last one in high school. She shows her horses. She shows her calves. She's got a 4.4 GPA. My oldest daughter, she did all that stuff too, but now that she's out starting her own business. And,
oh, nice.
She's doing equine massage.
Yeah.
She went to Ocala this winter.
Nice.
And, I've taught her the business side of things. She's 18 with an IRA.
Yeah.
I got started, but I said it's going to take 4 or 5 years.
Yep.
So she's working at a coffee shop, 3 or 4 days a week. Does 3 or 4 horses a week. She substitute school teaches a day that she doesn't go to the coffee shop, and then she's riding an outside horse for one of my customers.
Yeah. Gotta be proud of them.
Oh yeah, they stay busy.
Yeah.
So when we're empty nesters, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm gonna have to get a horse. I'm gonna have to get a horse and start trail riding with my wife or something.
There's always big bucks that need killing.
Oh yeah. Actually, the last nice one was my daughter Rhea. She got a. And she's ruined because it was her first buck. She got
better than killing one yourself.
Yeah. Oh yeah. First time she missed one. She was like 11. She shot a couple does, but this was a buck that come in, and we're in a double stand, and the dirt just flies between his front feet.
Yeah.
Like she missed him bigger.
Clean.
And it runs off, and she turns and looks at me, and she's like, "What is wrong with you?" I'm like, "What?" She's like, "I could feel your heartbeat shaking the tree stand." I said, "That's called buck fever."
Yeah, you're like, I'm
What's
still
the matter
good.
to you? I'm the one shooting at it, not you. And I was like, "Well, I wanted to see my little girl get one."
Yeah, exactly.
So she got that same buck the next year, and he grew up into a decent 10-point.
That's cool.
And
That's really
I might have
cool.
teared up then.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
she shot a doe this year, because I'm like, if you want to get a buck with a bow, you can go smaller.
Yeah.
But if you're using a
You gotta
450 Bushmaster, the 350 Legend, it's got to be bigger than the last one you killed. That's probably why I haven't killed one in 18 years.
Well, I get too excited when things are going down. My wife doesn't like me even with her. She's like, I'll just go alone. I don't want you there. I'm too jacked
Yeah.
up.
And my youngest one, she went this year for the first time at 15 and a half. She talks about becoming a vet, but she's the kid that the little baby bird falls out of the nest, and she's going to nurse it and put
Yeah.
it back up, and she can't pull the trigger.
Yeah, okay.
You know.
That's a
And
lot.
I had some does in front of her a couple years ago, the crossbow, and they're like 12 yards, eating
Yeah.
corn for 20 minutes, and I'm like, "Why didn't you shoot?" After they left, she's like, "Well, I didn't think that arrow was going to go through the shoulder." And I'm like, "Well, that's good.
Yeah.
That in doubt, don't shoot." And I'm like, "No, you just didn't have the heart to pull the trigger."
Yeah.
And that's the truth behind that one. My oldest one, you give her a gun and a wheelbarrow load of
She's
ammo,
okay.
she's gonna. I bought her a gun for graduation present.
Perfect
You know?
present.
I'm like, you can go do your concealed and carry, and
Yep.
she's got a little SMP,
That's
and
good.
yep,
Take care of herself.
yep.
Well, Mike, the hard question we like to ask is the Mount Rushmore. So who would be 4 people that you hold in a high regard that have kind of helped you get to where you're at, and that you hold in
Well,
respect?
number one for the last 20 some years would be my wife, Angie.
Good choice.
I seen someone the other day had a T-shirt that said, "I'm still raising my husband," and she needs that shirt.
Yeah.
She puts up with a lot. She's supportive. Great mom, great person, great work ethic, and sometimes where I fly off the handle, she's starting to rub off on me, and I'll think about things a little bit better and calm down a little bit before I
The
just
wise decision.
let my mouth go. Number 2 would be my dad. You know, the love of horses, the outdoors, and you know when you're young, you think you know everything. Like,
Yeah.
but once you hit about 28, you realize your parents weren't that stupid.
Yeah.
But you think when you're that late teenager, early 20s, you
Oh,
think
yeah.
you know everything. And I can remember my dad giving me the advice to pursue shoeing school. You know, that was a big decision.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah.
he helped me make that.
Especially after getting a college degree.
And I went to buy that other 104 acres in 2003. And I'm already in debt, and I'm scared to death. I call him up, and they split a farm up, and I bought everything on my side of the road. It was 280 acres total. And I'm like, I don't know if I can afford this. And he's like, well, they don't make it anymore. Ground. And he's
Yeah.
like, you may never, they're going to lot it up.
Yep.
If I knew what I know now, I would have bought the other 285 acres,
yeah.
and I'd be sitting on 350 acres. But, just all that through the years and the shoeing and all that.
Yeah, he obviously believed in you.
Yep. Michael McNutt. He was a big influence on me
Yeah.
and getting where I'm
Sounds
going.
like it.
And he's a good guy. So I took him to a convention in 2012 as my draft partner. I never took the same draft partner twice. And then Hooter and I go last year or 2 years ago. That's the only time I've never not placed in the draft class. So I always liked that. Of course, we didn't live close enough to practice. I looked around, I'm like, well, you got Hank. Well, Hank bowed out, I think. Hooter's the same age. Dusty is a couple years older than me, and I'm like, I'm the third oldest sucker in this class, going with the oldest guy. You know, it's hard to keep up with them 20-somethings. But anyway, we were practicing at Michael's shop one night, and before we went in for dinner, he threw his leg up on the anvil, and we do 2 goes every Friday night. And I'm talking to him about medial toes and cleaning up the medial branch and, you know, the ag heels, and that was all new to him.
Yeah.
Because back when they did, it was just 3/4 fuller toe clips. And he reached out and shook my hand, and he said, I want to thank you. He says, the student's teaching the teacher now. And I get a little wet-eyed and choked up every time I tell that story, but
Oh man. What a moment.
he don't know, he doesn't know what pedestal I put him on.
Yeah.
You know.
No, that he obviously, like, the pride was
And he
beaming
probably
from
won't
him.
hear this because I think he's probably technologically challenged. He's retired now. He shot his last horse in August, and I wanna make him something nice, and give to him
Good
for
retirement.
I
retirement.
wonder what that feels like, knowing like this is gonna be my last one, and that's it. You know?
He was ready. So, you know, he competed pretty hard, but never went past the 3 or 4 state local. He went to convention, I guess. He did make the shoeing, and that was in the late '90s. He got into training dogs, and he's actually a world champion. He won a world championship in Denver.
What type of dogs?
They're, I think, collies. They herd
Okay.
sheep and cattle.
Yeah, working
And
dogs.
he goes over to England, like he does clinics
stock
now.
dog.
Yeah,
That's cool.
He goes all over the country.
Yeah.
He's got a
Good
horse
trainer.
trailer he pulls, the living quarters is the dog boxes, and I didn't get to talk to him about it much at the funeral home there a couple weeks ago. He was telling someone else that I don't know how many dogs he had in, how much he charges a month. He's like, dude, you know, and I'm at the age now, I'm drawing Social Security. And he's like, this is better. But he got into that just like he took into the horseshoeing, you know. And I thought about this, and a number 4 is tough because just about everybody out there, and a lot of other names I haven't mentioned, even from around the world, have all influenced me in some way, you know. But for what's happened and what's been done for this trade since I've been around, you know, who could argue what more the Turnka family's done?
Yeah. Craig's on the list, on people's memories.
I mean, it's cliche because everybody names
I
him,
know.
but
There's a reason.
I mean, it's like I said earlier, the first time I met him, I thought, oh, shit, that's Michael Jordan. You know, I was shaking. I will back up and tell a story at Calgary because I've been there in situations, but one of my helpers, Jason Bromley, had made the team the first year, and he leaned on me pretty hard to show him what to do. We get up to Calgary on practice day, and I don't know, Dusty gets done, or Daniel and Ben, and I make something. I'm like, here. Grant is behind us. Craig's in front of us. You got Paul Robinson, and, you know, well, about the time they get finished up, Jason pulls his steel out. Craig turns around. Grant's standing there, and he couldn't hit the steel.
Oh, man.
And he just froze, and he put it back in the fire. He comes out. I think he drops his hammer, doesn't even hit the steel bumping. And anyway, they got away, and I went up, and I'm like, dude, they put their pants on one leg at a time, just like we do. But, you know, but yeah, I would say what he has done, or the whole family, in just raising the bar.
Exactly. Raise the bar, they give us a place to meet each other.
Yeah.
And find like community.
Yep.
That's a big part of it.
I don't know how he posts some of those shoes he puts on Facebook. I think he must lay them on a belt sander. You know? Because those sandboxes weren't even around when I was competing.
No.
You know?
Oh, they're pretty new.
Real good with a file.
Yeah. If I'm judging, it's going to be hammer finished.
Draw
I
file.
hate rasping. He will stand and knock something out in like 30 minutes, and then he just spends 30 minutes making it jewelry, and I'm like, I can't do that.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. But, like you said, everything's raising the bar, so
Yep.
when you think about detail in a Rolex watch,
Yeah.
There's a reason it's a Rolex watch.
Everybody's
That baby,
making.
even the
they're making
inside's
art
polished.
now.
Even the insides are polished.
Yep.
Well,
They're
Mike,
making art now.
we appreciate you taking time out
Thanks
of.
for having
It's a
me.
party out there, so it always feel bad like we drag everybody into a room, but I think people will enjoy hearing your story, man. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Go,
Yeah, thank
go
you, Mike.
Kansas City, huh?
Oh, I gotta go get Dusty a shirt.